Good morning, everyone. Good, unexpected morning. It is I, Scribelight, at 1:45 a.m., thereabouts, Pacific time. And I woke up just about maybe 45 minutes ago, thereabouts, to the sweet sounds of dripping water from the what do you want to call it? The ceiling of my apartment. From the edge of the door frame of my bathroom down onto the floor, because apparently, as far as I can tell, someone upstairs dumped a bunch of water on the floor, and there's some kind of crack, leak, or space between their bathtub and the seam in the floor, and so it ran down into my apartment. My first concern when I heard this, and I have very sensitive ears, so it's like, it's 1 a.m. thereabouts, and all of a sudden something is amiss in my environment, and my ears wake me up, and I hear this drip, 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 and I've had this happen before. And the people that lived in my apartment previously were an elderly couple. So every time that something happens or I hear something amiss upstairs, my first thought, instinctively now, is that someone is in trouble. You know, the old lady has fallen asleep in the tub, or somebody slipped, or something's wrong. Someone's in danger. That's my first thought. My second thought is that something infrastructurally has gone wrong. You know, water heater blew up, or a pipe burst, or something. Let me turn this music down just a smidge. So I throw on my robe, I put on a pair of pajama pants, I run upstairs, knock, knock, knock on the door. Lady answers, who is wrapped in a towel. And so she's looking at me like big wide eyes, and I'm like, there's water dripping into my apartment. And so she says, oh, okay, well, it's like, and she comes back, and I take her downstairs, and I show her, and she's like, oh my gosh, and we go back upstairs and look at her bathroom, and nothing seems amiss. You know, it looks like she just took a shower. But this hasn't happened before. I don't recall it happening anytime in the recent past. So, but then as very quickly we realize that she doesn't speak much English, and she understands what's going on, we just can't communicate any further. And so I'm like, okay, well, is there someone here? Is there someone going to be here that speaks English? I mean, I'm trying my best, right? And she says, tomorrow. Like, okay. So I go back downstairs, I put a pot underneath where it's dripping and stuff, and I just kind of stand there and watch, because I'm like, okay, is this just a temporary, you know, somebody's dumped water on the floor and it's coming through? Is this something worse? But slowly, surely, it ends. So it doesn't seem like it's a leaky pipe. And we're not talking about like the entirety of her shower water was coming down into my apartment. It was just a constant dripping. So it probably is just, well, I'll have to check with the apartment manager guy, but it's probably just going to require some caulking of the tub or something. Regardless, that's all the backstory to why I'm awake, because now I'm wide awake, because, you know, when you get that adrenaline, you're like, something's wrong, my apartment's about to be flooded or something, etc. You don't know what's happening, and you're running up and down stairs at 1 a.m. My sleep has thus been destroyed. And so I thought I would share that with you, dear viewer. Dear viewers like Ryan R., Froggy, Professor Chaos, Portmanteau, The Original Shroom, Mr. Dax, good morning. Good, unexpected morning. So, yeah, that's why I'm here. And since I was awake and I have absolutely nothing to do, why not stream? I take a hint from Ranting Monkey when these things occur. I can't sleep, can't think of anything better to do with my time or energy. Hey, why not vent a little bit and find out what's going on in the world, right? The Demon Man 57, Master Jake Ultra, and Pip Bin, good morning. Yeah, so this will be I don't know how long I'll go on here. For as long as you'll have me, and for as long as I can stand it, I suppose. But what's going on in the world? A lot of news in the last 12 to 24 hours. So, hey, let's take a look and learn something. There's a couple of things that I know are going on that I want to check out. First and foremost, of course, is the intruder attack, home invasion of the Pelosi household. By what last I heard, I don't know what the latest is. This article from our friends at CNN will tell me, I'm sure. Last I heard, it was a hammer-wielding assailant. Resolute Germ, 2 a.m. scribe, WTF? Well, like I said, I got woken up by a water problem coming from my upstairs neighbor. That's fine. Reject. Hey, Reject. Won't stay long. Just wanted to say hi. Well, hello. MCRN Doniger. Well, hey, long time no see. How are you doing? Midnight with Scribe. Well, I guess depending on what part of the world you're in. Anyway, so yeah. If you're just joining or whatever, don't know the backstory to why I'm up at this time of day. I got woken up by shenanigans happening in the apartment above me. It is, at least for the moment, resolved, but will probably have to be addressed once morning hits. So anyway, what's happening? Assailant tried to tie up Paul Pelosi in home attack and shouted, where is Nancy? Sources say. Good gravy. Paul Pelosi, the husband of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was attacked with a hammer at the couple's home in San Francisco by a male assailant early Friday morning, law enforcement sources told CNN. The assailant who attacked him was searching for the Speaker of the House, according to a source briefed on the attack. What source? I know maybe it's not that big a deal, but at the same time, why does CNN constantly have to feel like they have to conceal the identity of a source in an important matter? I mean, this isn't. I guess unless it's a police leak or something, or they could at least say that the person requested anonymity or something like that. Like, what source? Give us a hint. The intruder confronted the speaker's husband in their San Francisco home, shouting, where is Nancy? Where is Nancy? According to the source, the man who assaulted Paul Pelosi tried to tie him up, quote, until Nancy got home, according to 2 sources familiar with the situation. When the police arrived, the assailant was saying he was, quote, waiting for Nancy, unquote. Quote, this was not a random act. This was intentional, San Francisco Police Chief William Scott said during a news conference on the investigation, adding, it's wrong. You don't say. Our elected officials are here to do the business of their cities. Technically, yeah, but we're talking about Nancy Pelosi here. Sorry. Their counties, their states, and this nation, their families don't sign up for this to be harmed, and it is wrong. Well, sure, our elected officials and any other citizen under your care. They're not royalty or anything, but anyway, Pelosi, 82, was taken to a hospital and underwent, quote, a successful surgery to repair a skull fracture and serious injuries to his right arm and hands. Jesus. Drew Hamill, a spokesman for Nancy Pelosi, said in a statement early Friday evening. The statement said that doctors expect he'll make a full recovery. Well, good. I mean, for all my sardonic wit and everything else, I don't want people attacked or harmed or anything. Disagreeing with someone or not being jazzed with them as a politician or, spouse thereof or whatever doesn't equate to wishing harm on them or anything. Scott said authorities are still determining a motive in the attack, but they intend to book the suspect on felony charges. Well, I had read somewhere else, and again, I'm not a journalist, I'm just saying, I had read somewhere else that they had identified the guy and he had some kind of known history of serious mental illness. But maybe that's elsewhere. Quote, the suspect is still in the hospital, but let me say this. We intend to book the suspect, whether it's in absentia or whether it's in person. He'll be booked for felony charges, he said in a news conference Friday evening without providing additional details. Okay. Who said that? Scott? Who's Scott again? Okay, William Scott. Okay. The attack sent shockwaves through Washington and sparked an outpouring of condolences and condemnation from congressional leaders on both sides of the aisle. It comes as fears of political violence directed toward lawmakers remain high in the wake of January 6, 2020. Yeah, never mind Steve Scalise being shot or Rand Paul being beat up by his neighbor or anything else that had nothing to do with January 6th. You got to bring up January 6th. Of course you do. Of course you do. It's just, yeah, you don't know the motive of the attack. You don't know anything else, but we are going to make it political immediately without knowing fears of political violence. Okay. Yeah. We don't know what the motive for the attack is yet, but we're going to insinuate we already know what the motive of the attack is. Nancy Pelosi was able to speak to her husband after the attack and before he was taken into surgery, according to a source familiar with the matter. The speaker flew with her family to San Francisco on Friday to be with her husband, and another source familiar. Is that like their black cat or something? Their source familiar? Told CNN Friday evening that she was at the hospital. Quote, the speaker and her family are thankful for the outpouring of support and prayers from friends, constituents, and people around the country. The Pelosi family is immensely grateful to Mr. Pelosi's entire medical team and the law enforcement officers who responded to the assault, Hamill said in the Friday evening statement. Authorities identified 42-year-old David DePape as the suspect in the attack. Officials expect to, quote, bring forward multiple felony charges in connection with the incident next week, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins tweeted Friday evening. Quote, we are coordinating closely with federal and local law enforcement partners in this investigation. We will bring multiple... somebody's revving their engine outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it's one of those late-night rumbles going on. Multiple felony charges on Monday and expect DePape to be arraigned on Tuesday. DePape, whatever, will be held accountable for his heinous crimes, she wrote. Scott detailed Friday evening what responding law enforcement officers witnessed when they arrived at the scene. When officers arrived at the Pelosi residence, Scott said, the front door was opened, quote, by someone inside, and the officers from outside the door observed Pelosi and DePape each had a hand, quote, on a single hammer. Okay, so they're struggling for the weapon. Okay, while still outside the home, officers saw DePape pull the hammer away from Pelosi and attack Pelosi, the police chief said. Scott went on to say that Pelosi was struck by DePape at least once. Okay, at an earlier news conference, Scott said the suspect had, quote, pulled a hammer away from Mr. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it. Our officers immediately tackled the suspect, disarmed him, took him into custody, requested emergency backup, and rendered medical aid. Paul Pelosi was able to call 911 at the start of the attack, according to a law enforcement source and another source familiar with the matter. He managed to keep the line open, and the dispatcher could hear a conversation in the background, according to the law enforcement source. Pelosi was talking in code, said the law enforcement source, providing enough detail so that the operator overhearing it could understand that there was something wrong. At the same time, Pelosi seemed to be trying not to make it obvious to the intruder that he had an open line, the source described. The source said the dispatcher could hear Pelosi speaking about what was going on and dispatched police to check on the house. The struggle with Pelosi was captured on police body camera as police came through the door to intervene, according to one of the sources. Okay, well, that'll be... I wonder if they'll release that to the public in the near future. Jenkins confirmed the call, telling CNN's Aaron Burnett, it is really thanks to Mr. Pelosi having the ability to make that call, and truly the attention and the instincts of that dispatcher to realize that something was wrong in that situation, and to make the police call a priority, so they got there within 2 minutes to respond to the situation. Police have been able to speak with the suspect, who suffered, quote, some minor injuries during the incident, Jenkins said. Scott declined to provide additional details on the suspect's condition Friday evening. Too much hatred. Okay, the man who allegedly attacked Paul Pelosi early Friday posted memes and conspiracy theories on Facebook about COVID vaccines, the 2020 election, and the January 6th attack, and an acquaintance told CNN that he seemed, quote, out of touch with reality, unquote. DePape was not known to U.S. Capitol Police and was not in any federal databases tracking threats, according to 3 sources who were briefed on the investigation. The U.S. Capitol Police said in a statement earlier in the morning that they are assisting the FBI and the San Francisco Police, quote, with a joint investigation, unquote, into the break-in at the Pelosi residence in California. The assailant entered the Pelosi residence through the back of the house, according to 2 sources familiar with the early details of the incident. Just, where are you getting... I know. I'm a broken record. Just let it go, right? But I'm so annoyed at this constant obfuscation of where you're getting your information. In this instance, it's probably not that important, but really. Getting too comfortable with just sort of throwing stuff out there and just, Yeah, every time I hear that, every time I read that, I should say, I just in my mind I imagine it's a trust me story. Just trust me. This person knows what they're talking about. I'm not going to give you any reason why they're credible as a source, but they just know. They're just familiar with it. Yeah, well, I'm familiar with the matter of the beginnings of the universe, but I wouldn't call myself a expert authority on the subject. I'm familiar with it. With Speaker Pelosi away, there would not have been a security detail at the residence, according to one source familiar with protocol. Okay, well, that was one of the questions that I'd seen floating around, like, why wouldn't the speaker's home have some kind of security? But I guess the security is attached to the speaker and not the speaker's family, unlike, say, the president. Okay. There may be video that U.S. Capitol Police and law enforcement can review, as there are security cameras at the home, according to 2 law enforcement sources. Well, see, now, I'll take that. 2 law enforcement sources. It's something. It's better than just some guy who knows a thing. President Joe Biden spoke with Speaker Pelosi on Friday and helped arrange her travel from Washington to San Francisco. Why would he need to do that? What, is Joe Biden a travel agent? Okay. Later in the day, the president directly tied the assault to growing strains of right-wing extremism in remarks at the fundraising. Okay. You don't know until you know. It's like there was a, I always think back because I'm that old to remember, in those first couple of hours after the advent of the Oklahoma City bombing. I'm watching the TV news at the time, and you got that helicopter shot of the building, right? And the news people commentating they've got nothing, right? I mean, it just happened within the last couple hours. It's absolute chaos, and they're trying to fill airtime, and they start going like, this may in fact be religious terrorism or something like that, or Islamic terrorism or something. And I'm sitting, even then, I was a kid then. This is what I was like 93 or something when that happened. Whatever it was. Mid to early 90s. And I was just a kid. And even then I was like, whoa, wait, why don't you wait until you have some information? Don't jump the gun on who or did what. Of course, they were absolutely wrong. And trying to stoke fears, or just try to fill time by guessing. But you want to politicize this that quick? Of course you do. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, this is despicable. There's no place in America. There's too much violence, political violence, too much hatred, too much vitriol, Biden said. Yeah. Okay. Senate GOP leader Mitch McConnell said in a tweet on Friday that he is horrified and disgusted by the reports that Pelosi was assaulted in his home. Quote, grateful to hear that Paul is on track to make full recovery and that law enforcement, including our stellar Capitol Police, are on the case. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy reached out for Speaker Pelosi after the attack, according to McCarthy's office. Leader McCarthy reached out to the speaker to check in on Paul and said he's praying for a full recovery and is thankful they caught the assailant. Yes. The Pelosi's have been married since 1963 and have 5 children. All right, so there you go. Who else has shown up since I started going off into La La Land? Let's see. 6. J2022, Raid Chaos Street, Keever Dam. Good morning, good morning. As much of good morning as it can be if you're up this late with me. Assassin of the Gray, Cannibalistic Wizard. Anybody else I missed? Johnny Blaze. And if I missed you or you're lurking, hello. Yes, I was awakened by dripping water into my apartment from the bathroom in the apartment above me. It is, as far as I know, ceased to this point, and hopefully will be addressed as whatever the source is tomorrow. Or I should say later this morning at this point. Yippee skippy. The Assassin of the Gray. Hold on a second here. I've seen you post this before. I don't want to be said I've completely missed this, but Scribelight, I linked the show across the Discords. Now join Dogcat Fox, the Wonder Critter, to fight Distupid from Moonbase 1. Well, thank you, Assassin of the Gray, for being my advertising agent amongst so many of you. And Keeverdam says, and I shared your stream on Twitter. Well, thank you, Keeverdam, as always. Raymond Lewis, good morning. First off, and I say it once in a while, but I obviously don't say it enough. First off, for those of you that share my stuff or let people know that I exist or whatever, thank you so very much. I really, really do appreciate it. And as I always say, if there is a content creator out there that you like, whether it's me or someone else, let people know that you do, because honestly, YouTube and the mechanisms therein do a very poor job of letting the world know that smaller content creators, YouTubers, etc. even exist. So you guys are our best algorithm. And if you do happen to share my stuff out, particularly on Twitter, please, by all means, tag me in your tweets somewhere so that I know that you have. So if I see it, I can thank you personally, because I really do appreciate it. In that vein, Sunday, which is now tomorrow morning, at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, will be a special Halloween stream on here. Joining me will be Script Doctor, or the Script Doctor, there's only one, and the Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge. And the plan is to, between the three of us and our various ideas, talents, and skills, try to create a sequel to the movie Wes Craven's New Nightmare, a new entry in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So that's the plan. I have a goofy idea to how to make it work. I have a goofy idea. May or may not work. Tom Connors will be our lore master, as he is an expert in all things Nightmare on Elm Street. Script Doctor is, of course, the professional screenwriter, scriptwriter, who will be helping me to hammer out an actual narrative. But that'll be tomorrow morning. So looking forward to that. Let's see, who else? It's a Llama, good morning. Jamie Jam, good morning. And if I didn't already say it, Raymond Lewis, good morning. I might have already said that. My mind wanders when I'm awake at this time of day. Okay, now the other story I wanted to look at, because this was a big deal that popped out just last night. Who do I want to ping on this one? There are a lot of ads. I always got to check, like, whatever news source I'm going at. Do they pop up a whole bunch of ads on me or something? Okay, and that article's not very lengthy. Is there a good one here? Sorry for the suspense here. I just want to make sure I find something decent. No, that's like a stub. Come on, guys. Give me a little bit more. A little bit more than that. Why are all these stories like a paragraph long about this? Okay, is ABC going to be the savior here? A little bit? Okay, maybe not. All right, well, we'll go with this in the absence of a better option. Okay, so there's going to be a video that's going to play here in a second because this thing can't help itself. Okay, police to announce update in mysterious Delphi double murder. I don't know if you guys remember this, but hopefully the story here will give us some details. Here we go. Okay, police will announce an update in the mysterious Delphi, Indiana double murder case on Monday. I might have to click on that. The press conference is set for 10 a.m. Okay, I'm assuming Eastern Standard Time, which is now only 4 hours away. Okay. Libby German, 14, and her best friend Abby Williams, 13, were on a hiking trail in rural Delphi when they were killed on February 13th, 2017. Police have never named a suspect or released how the girls died. In 2017, authorities released a grainy image of the suspect, who they say was on the trail the day the girls went missing. In 2019, police released a brief video clip, footage taken from Libby's phone, showing a grainy image of the suspect walking on the bridge near where the girls were last seen. Police also publicized the suspect's voice, a recording of him saying, "Guys, down the hill," which was recovered from Libby's phone. Authorities released a new suspect sketch in 2019 that officials said was based on a witness's recollection of what he or she saw. The head of the Indiana State Police, Doug Carter, gave a direct message to the killer in an interview earlier this year with ABC News. Quote, "We know a lot about you. Today could be the day. Sleep well." I think there's more information that's been floating out there than that. I thought the suspect had been identified in other places. Pretty sure. But if you want, there's a couple of good YouTubers you can check out if you want to get like a real deep dive on the Delphi murders. The first one that comes to mind is Dreading. So if you go on YouTube and look up Dreading, DREADING True Crime. You'll find, and look up Delphi. You'll find a really good video that breaks down all the most recent information on the subject up through, I think, January of this year or earlier this year at least. Yeah, it's also a great true crime channel in general. That guy does great in-depth and long-form work. So if you haven't already, and of course, there's lots and lots of true crime videos out there about the Delphi murders. There is some indication from other sources that something. I mean, not to say that murder in and of itself isn't bad, but that what was done to those girls in particular was, let's just say, horrific. There are the implications. No one said for sure. The police have kept the details very, very, very close to the vest, so to speak, for the sake of the investigation. But yeah, ritualistic was the word that came out a couple of times, which always conjures horrible things. But if they have caught the guy, thank goodness. And I hope whoever he is, he didn't hurt anybody else in the interim. But I guess we'll find out, hopefully. But I was happy to hear that, because that's one that's been sort of, you hate unsolved crimes, right? Unsolved crimes, especially when you have so much tantalizing evidence of the suspect. You have their voice, you have potentially their image. And there was apparently there was further audio recorded by the girl, Libby, I think it was, on her phone, but the police never released it. They only released that one little snippet because they were so cagey about damaging the investigation. But anyway, yes, I was glad to hear that. Emperor W.R. Costin, good morning. Funtime Bats, good morning. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, I'm pulling a ranting monkey, as it were, in being wide awake early in the morning and not knowing what to do with myself. What else shall we look into at the moment? How about... let's see what's the latest and greatest in the wonderful world of comic books, comic book movies, media entertainment, etc. Here we go. Yeah, I saw this earlier today. We're going to go over to Bounding into Comics. Something a bit lighter. How about something a bit lighter? If you guys don't know about Bounding into Comics, I am a frequent retweet on the Bounding into Comics Twitter, because I make snarky comments about certain stories they put up, and oftentimes I get retweeted, and I feel so special. New Star Trek comic disgusts readers with a Vulcan lecturing the crew on gender pronoun. Yes, a race of beings base their entire society, philosophy, behavior on logic is going to lecture the crew on the incorrectness of gendered pronouns. The Star Trek franchise has become one of the most mocked properties on the internet in recent years, mired with controversies because of the identity politics constantly pushed by the show, books, and comics. It's true. In a recent IDW comic, the writers perpetuated the franchise's woke content by lecturing its readers on gender identity by using Vulcan characters as a vehicle to gaslight readers who aren't obsessing over pronouns. The decline of Star Trek's popularity among fans began with Star Trek Discovery. I don't know if it was Star Trek Discovery. I think the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, Into Darkness, and certainly thereafter, Beyond, Star Trek Beyond, or what it was called, I think that was the downward slope. The first movie, it was a novelty. It was fun, even though it was goofy and stupid. But it got people excited about the concept again. After that, though, but yeah, Discovery certainly Discovery. If the movies themselves weren't terrible enough, Discovery definitely put a giant nail in the coffin. First began a Star Trek Discovery, which first flaunted racial divisions and an explicit on-screen homosexual relationship before pushing even further to the bottom of the identity politics barrel when they introduced a Trill character who, despite obviously being a woman, lectured her crewmates and audience on how she wanted to be called they-them. okay, well, explicit on screen. I mean, that was happening on Deep Space Nine. I mean, it wasn't as maybe, I don't know, hailed or in your face, but it was there. That doesn't mean much to me. All depends on how it's done, I suppose. In novels, Star Trek author behavior turned off several fans their TNG era continuation series. What? Star Trek author behavior. Okay. With longtime Trek writer David Mack canceling his guest of honor appearance at Mid-Southcon. Okay, he did so to taunt the state of Tennessee, which had a law that prevented employers from coercing their employees into taking the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay. Mack wrongfully stated that his action was, quote, because Tennessee state law makes proof of vax requirements illegal. My brain went three different directions trying to interpret this paragraph. The law did not impact the convention, which could have required proof of vaccination to attend, but they chose not. Okay. Mack went on to attack fans upset with his cancellation, stating, I doubt you understood any of my books anyway. The doubt out of this makes proof of vax requirements illegal. Okay. I don't know what that has to do with the comic book with the Vulcan and the pronouns, but okay. The comics have been no refuge for Star Trek fans who want to keep current year left-wing agenda out of their science fiction reading. In 2021, IDW named embattled personality Heather Antos as the line's editor. Under her tenure, fans complained about how she took no care with continuity, which was highlighted in several editorial failures in the recent issue of a Deep Space Nine comic. The current controversy comes from the newly released Star Trek #1, which features a pre-Picard era where Benjamin Sisko returns from the Bajoran wormhole only to find that people are killing the Bajoran prophets, which needs to be stopped. The book is written by Jackson Lanzig and Colin Kelly, best known for their work on Batman Beyond. Pre-Picard, so we're talking pre-Picard, the TV show, right? Because Picard, yeah, okay. In the issue, a Vulcan named Talur, is speaking with an Andorian named Lily, using the plural there to refer to the USS Theseus. That's an interesting name. Lily, well, here it's with two L's, and over here it's with one L. But anyway, Lily corrects Talur, stating her crew, ships are girls. Talur then retorts, the gender binary is illogical, and we both know it, unquote. Okay. Dr. Beverly Crusher, I was just on my way to medbay. Okay, that's Sisko saying that. Okay. I'm sure you were. Luckily, I brought medbay to you. Why would you say Dr. Beverly? Why don't you say Dr. Crusher? Full name? Like we wouldn't know who that? Okay. Your eagerness to volunteer for this mission raised some eyebrows, not among those who know me. There's nothing I love more than a good medical mystery, and you might be the best one since the Proxima Plague. Let the record show that the captain is of sound health and body. Authorization Crusher Alpha 5. Record logged. Don't make me a liar. Doctor's orders. Oh, did my reputation not precede me, Doctor? I love following orders. Yes, especially when you're arranging assassinations of political figures during wartime. Oh, but we don't talk about that. We don't talk about that much. Benjamin Sisko. No, I'm not. And by the way, Benjamin Sisko, probably one of the better Star Trek characters overall from the television series. They definitely made a very complex and compelling character out of Benjamin Sisko. And that one incident where he's like basically arranging for and suborning political assassination just for expediency, and that one, yeah. Spoiler alert, if you never watched DS9, it gets to that point. I won't get to the details, but it gets there. Then we get to the Vulcan. If I might, sir, I do have a query. Talur, don't. Okay. I apologize for any secondhand embarrassment, Lily. Logic dictates I act in the best interest of the Theseus and their crew. Her crew. Ships are girls. The gender binary is illogical, and we both know it. Ensign, no need to stand on ceremony. Ask away. Theseus. I think of Theseus's ship, right? And some of its parts. that kind of thing. Anyway. The interchange is meant to reinforce 2022 gender identity politics propaganda based on the English language, which is nonsensical in a 24th century era, as the language wouldn't be anything like it is today, and presumably an Andorian and Vulcan would have the benefits of a universal translator, which wouldn't even likely have English-based pronouns. Okay, well, setting all that aside, in every Star Trek thing previous to this, they effectively used modern language in their exchanges. You rarely hear any sort of like sci-fi era reports, you know, like in Battlestar Galactica where they talk about frack, use frack as a curse word. I mean, I'm sure there might be some in Star Trek that I'm just not coming to mind right now, but it's not very often, and everybody speaks, you know, basic American English. So most of the time, whatever the sci-fi equivalent would be or explanations thereof. Anyway. Moreover, if a Vulcan were trying to reinforce the logic in this speech, he wouldn't refer to an inanimate object like a ship by the term there, which, despite being a plural word, is a pronoun. We would instead use the proper word it. Yeah, its crew. That'd be completely acceptable as well. Its crew. The only reason to insert this kind of dialogue is to lecture readers on gender pronouns, making the Vulcan sound more like a current-year teenage girl than a logical scientist. This kind of pause in the story to virtue signal identity politics is creeping into comics more often. It's not really, it's there. It's not creeping anymore, especially when it comes to like Marvel comics and DC comics of late. This isn't this isn't an anomaly, let's just say. Right? This isn't the leading edge of something. This is just a continuation of stuff that's been going on for years. Creeping into comics more often, and is yet another sign of the poorly thought out editorial oversight of Miss Antos, who has repeatedly demonstrated she is more interested in left-wing politics than maintaining accuracy in comic franchises. What do you think of Star Trek #1 and gender identity lecture? Yeah, well, yeah, taking established IPs and using them as platforms to push your own personal, political, or sociological agendas. Yeah, or using, I mean, there's a difference between using allegory, right, for common experiences in society, humankind, etc. And then there's using current day politics blatantly. You know, and everybody always goes back to the X-Men. Well, the X-Men have always been about, you know, genetic difference and this, that, and the other. They've been pushing this thing. Now, the X-Men are talking about, and have always been talking about, you have a minority group that is being oppressed by the majority. It doesn't matter what you want to put into that category, right? I mean, everybody's saying, oh, yeah, you know, Professor Xavier was Malcolm X and Magneto was, Professor Xavier was Martin Luther King Jr. and Magneto was Malcolm X. Maybe. I don't know exactly what the inherent interpretation was at the time, but you always have people on either side of a particular agenda, right, trying to get just equal rights. Let's just talk about equal rights for a second. Whether you're talking about, like, you know, the women's movement of the suffrage era, or you're talking about the civil rights era, or you're talking about gay rights in the 90s and onward. This is, or take that same dynamic and put it into any other society where you have a segment of the population that is being treated differently by the rest of the population, either under law or custom. It is a common human experience, right? It's not talking about necessarily a right now thing. It can refer to those things as being similar to, but it all represents a common analogy or human interaction and something people can relate to. Being on the short end of the stick, being in the minority, being bullied. I mean, you can reduce it down just that far, right? You got a kid who's different. In the case of the comic books, you have a kid who, you know, I don't know, has which one? Can turn things into ice, right? You have Iceman, he's just different. And so he's bullied by kids because he's different, and marginalized by kids because he's different. You know, that doesn't have anything specifically to do with gender identity or pronouns or race or anything. It could be anything. It could be all of those things. or none of them. It could be just you're the shy kid with glasses and people pick on you. And you can relate to that because it's a common human experience. That's the power of having an effective allegory for common things in life, whether they be political, cultural, personal, whatever. You can sort of lose yourself in that. You can relate to that character on a fundamental level, and not because you're being lectured to about how to behave. There can be a moral lesson within it, certainly, right? But not a lecture on like, oh, you're wrong for thinking this way about the specific thing that's happening right now that is the current agenda on Twitter. So, I'm not probably explaining myself all that clearly. It is 2:30 in the morning, and I'm lacking sleep. There you go. Who else is here, if anybody is here? Anybody else show up? Dr. Functional, good morning. Let's see. Give a moment here to see what's going on. Is that Data in the background? Sure looks like it, doesn't it? Sure looks like it. So this is pre the Picard show, so I guess Data was still around. Jamie Jams, the Cyclops of the JFK and Jean Grey was Jackie or Marilyn Monroe? Sure, why not? Oh. Now, Resolution, I can see Ben Sisko that focus. Oh, man. Yeah, Ben Sisko was pretty good. I like Ben Sisko. How about, you mean demographic? Yeah. Group, demographic, marginalized, subset, something or other. Damn, Star Wars to reveal first ever female protagonist. I know! Yay! Yeah, that Eclipse game, they just announced that the protagonist of the Eclipse, rumor. Oh, it's right there. Let's look at that, shall we? Why not? Can I? Hello? I'm clicking on you. You're not responding. Okay, interesting. Don't know why that is. Headlines for you, but the links aren't working. Don't know. All right, well, see if I can find another one here. Is it going to let me actually look at it? How about that? There we go. All right, well, the sidebar links don't seem to work, but I can go back to the home page and get these. Let's see. Rumor, Star Wars Eclipse to introduce female protagonist, described as a, quote, fanatical supporter of her alien race's own empire. Okay. You're the protagonist. Is she going to, over the course of the thing, discover that she's on the bad guy side and has to redeem herself and her people? A new rumor about Lucasfilm Games and Quantic Dream Star Wars Eclipse is doing the rounds, suggesting that the game will feature a female protagonist described as fanatical about her alien warmongering culture. Ooh, are they going to be like Klingons? Or Mandalorian types? As reported on the Sacred Symbols podcast and transcribed by VGC, video game journalist Colin Moriarty made several claims about Star Wars Eclipse, the first being rather damning, asserting, quote, "This game, as far as I can tell, is not even really in production yet," unquote. Well, that was known, wasn't it? They had this big cinematic trailer kind of thing that told you almost nothing about what was going on. And then there was all this news that the whole thing had basically been put on hold and that everything got screwed up. Announced during 2021's Game Awards. That would mean 10 months of development, or rather not, have been conducted so far. If we also consider an insider report from early March of this year, who claimed that the upcoming title had been in development for 18 months at the time, its figure grows to almost 26 months as of November. The rest of the podcast reportedly features discussion about the game's story, which is co-written by Quantic Dreams veteran David Cage and Adam Williams. Both had worked on Detroit Become Human, while Cage also worked on Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, and Omicron, The Nomad Soul. Insider sources had revealed the game would not only feature a female protagonist, but that she would also be of an alien race new to the Star Wars universe. Okay. Quote, materials seen by this podcast describe a so-called Project S, with a character named Sarah as the lead. Probably a code name. Sarah is described as an athletic 30-something and is a member of a human-like race. This race is at the lead of some sort of empire called the Zarin. Zarin? A race not seen in Star Wars before. It prides itself on political and military aggression, and similar to what you might find elsewhere in Star Wars, there's little differentiation between males and females when it comes to roles and responsibilities, he continued. Zarin? Wasn't Admiral Zarin? Wait a second. Was it 2 A's? No, it was Admiral Zarin in the TIE Fighter game, right? Wasn't it? Okay, yeah, Zaarin. Okay, that's the Zarin I'm thinking of. All right, so it's Zar. All right, my bad. Zaarin, and this is Zaraan. Zaran. He was Zarin. This is the Zaran. Okay. All right, so we make up a new alien species, which is, I mean, I don't necessarily have a problem with that in the Star Wars universe. You can have a new alien species show up you haven't seen before, and they had a whole backstory, so okay. In my opinion, there was this thing they used to do on StarWars.com way back in the olden days when the prequels were coming out, and they might still do it. I don't know, but way back when, they had this little game on StarWars.com where they would put up a promotional image of a person, a character, an alien, whatever, that was basically just a background figure, right? Some kind of extra, some kind of window dressing for the scene. And they'd say, okay, you guys tell us, who is this? Write a backstory, give this person a name, give them a history, etc., and we'll have a contest. And whichever one we like, for the sake of everything, we'll make it part of Star Wars canon. And there was a great little contest because there's so many background characters and so many stories and comic books and all types of things have been derived from writers taking a look at just some random character in the background of a scene and making up a backstory. Quinlan Vos, the Jedi Quinlan Vos, was based on a blink and you'll miss it background character on Tatooine in Phantom Menace. It was just this background character with dreadlocks and a line of yellow paint across his bridge of his nose. And I think was it Durisma? I forget. There was a comic book author who just took that image and just made up an entire backstory for this guy, and it was an amazing character he built in the comic books. So I would think it might make more sense to find a alien that's already been introduced somewhere within the franchise that is of a species that either hasn't been named or has no story behind it, and just use that to have some kind of immediate connection, even if it's tenuous, to existing canon. Because there are story seeds and plot ideas just floating around in the background of all the Star Wars movies, many of which have never been thought about or used. And that to me makes more sense. If you really want to have a project in outgrowth of the franchise, you've got plenty to work with already. You don't need to make up out of whole cloth something new. You could take something that already exists and give it a backstory. Anyway, that's just my little rant on that. Moriarty added, but there's an interesting wrinkle when Zaran marries, or a Zaran marries, their nuptials carry interesting military implications as they become one governing unit that works together. What? Their nuptials? Okay, I don't know how that's supposed to work. This is where it appears Sarah's character arc in Star Wars Eclipse begins. Quote, "This is a problem because Sarah, a fanatical true believer in the violence and criminality regularly demonstrated by her empire, is married to a character named Zendo, who is a far softer touch. Part of the game seems to revolve around these two characters and their relationship." Why would she marry a guy who doesn't think the same way she does about the Empire. I mean, was it like an arranged marriage or something? Maybe that's it. Okay. It's not hard to imagine how Sarah, are they really going to call her Sarah? Okay, learning to reject the warmongering nature she had been brought up has parallels to the Galactic Empire or the dark side of the Force, for example. Even so, VGC points out it is unclear if this provisionally named Project S is what the game's final plot will use. Then again, the reveal trailer did show humanoid aliens performing what could be deemed ritualistic and intimidating drumming and an impressive army. Though one wonders if Sarah is a placeholder for a more exotic alien game. Yeah, I would think so. Reports of a troubled development had done the rounds in the past. In December of last year, fans pushed the Blackout Star Wars Eclipse hashtag due to Quantic Dream's allegations of fostering a hostile work environment, followed by reports that seemingly indicated the studio was struggling to attract developer talent. Citing claims from an anonymous former Quantic Dreams developer, the company was having issue with their engine being unable to handle the, quote, massive multi-planetary open world they are aiming for. Why, that sounds very No Man's Sky. Maybe you can get some tips from them. The alleged expectation was the game would not launch until the end of the decade. By the way, there's an excellent documentary on the No Man's Sky saga from Internet Historian I just watched the other day. If you don't know about Internet Historian, oh man, great stuff. Just put out a new documentary a couple weeks ago about a mining accident back in like the 20s or the 1918 or thereabouts, somewhere in there, late 1900s or mid 1900s. Great. If you don't know about the Internet Historian, go check it out. Funny stuff, great stuff. Quantic Dream would later deny the game had been delayed, rather specifically noting Star Wars Eclipse has not been delayed because Quantic Dream never announced or promised a launch window for the title. I guess that's true, right? They never said it will be released on this, so there's no delay because we never set a date. I suppose you're right. Earlier this year, Chinese internet technology company NetEase, co-developers of Diablo Immortal, which doesn't have any kind of shady background to it, were rumored to be interested in both acquiring and helping Quantic Dream, quote, bring Star Wars Eclipse to life, unquote. Sources at the time claimed, however, that the acquisition was expected to be announced this past summer. Yeah. Well, if a NetEase were to take over, which it sounds like some kind of laxative, honestly, NetEase. If they were to take over Star Wars Eclipse, I can only imagine the microtransactions. Yeah, the stories on Diablo Immortal and the money that is spent or is necessary to quote unquote win that game. Oh man. Beachy Cogito. Good morning. I sure enjoyed, but this is now sure the first one. I'm really enjoying The Expanse currently playing. Wait a second. Heberdam, thanks for attending my curiosity. Are you a Star Wars fan? Heberdam. Nah, I don't hate it though. You're not a Star Wars fan? Excuse me? What? What? Oh, I see. Well, at least you don't hate it, I guess. MCRN Doniger, have you seen C on Apple TV? It's a good show in my opinion. I have not. I don't have Apple TV. I think my sister's got Apple TV. I have not seen C, but if I ever see C, I will see to it that what I saw in C, if anything. Oh man, what else? What else is going on? I'm all over the place, guys. There was no plan for this. How long have I been going now? Almost an hour. Let's see. Let's take one more look and see if any headlines on Bounding into Comics strike me as interesting. Oh, right. Okay, we'll do this one. I saw this doing the rounds on Twitter. Let's check this one out. New Disney short film Reflect helps plus-size girls feel good about dancing and diabetes. Yep. The Disney Plus streaming service has released a short film entitled Reflect, which tells the story of a plus-size young girl named Bianca as she battles her own reflection, overcoming doubt and fear by channeling her inner strength, grace, and power. Disney has faced criticism in the past for featuring movies with healthy princesses that many consider unrealistic standards for young girls. Bianca is the first plus-sized quote-unquote protagonist to be featured in a Disney film, apparently not counting Russell from Up. I guess that's... I mean, there have been wasn't like the dad in Brave, like quite girthy? I mean, I know he wasn't a main character per se, but he was a protagonist, right? There have been large men. What about the was it the brother or whatever in Moana, played by The Rock? Wasn't that a Disney movie, or am I just completely off base? Wasn't he rather large? Anyway, focusing on a heavy character makes financial sense for Disney, as studies have indicated that almost 58% of Americans are either overweight or obese, with an increase in obesity percentages from 30.5% to 41.9% in the last 20 years. This means this ample demographic, good one, author, ample demographic, consists of roughly 191.6 million Americans, almost equal to the number of registered Republicans, 36.4 million, registered Democrats, 48 million, African Americans, 45.1 million, and Hispanics, 62.6 million in this country combined. CDC also reports that obesity rates among young girls Bianca's age have doubled in the past 20 years. Similar reports stress that girls on a plus-sized adventure like Bianca will eventually face severely increased risks for heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancers. The film's focus on Bianca's ability to overcome her overweight reflection through ballet is highlighted as she gracefully dances through colorful visuals on limber legs. It's a wonderful contrast to Bianca's future, as her legs will be one of the things she ultimately might lose from crippling type 2 diabetes. Studies have shown about 130,000 Americans undergo amputations from diabetic complications annually, and recent research has indicated that major diabetes-related NLEA, non-traumatic lower extremity amputations for young adults like our heroine, have increased by 29%. The timing of this release from Disney's short-circuit experimental films effort is also perfect, as American teenagers have seen weight gains at an alarming rate during the COVID-19 pandemic, increasing the number of potential viewers looking for a positive spin on how, quote, less opportunity for physical activity and proper nutrition were likely key factors for the increased weight gain. Yes, everyone, if you're able, exercise once a day. Even if it's just like turning on 3 songs in your living room and jogging in place for 15, 20 minutes or something. Maybe you don't have a Stairmaster or access to a gym or something. Do something that moves your body around for a bit every day. Just take 20 minutes out of your day and do that. Whatever it is. Something. You're better off. The same, regardless of the long-term problems this type of film might inspire, some online commentators felt the overall message of Reflect was empowering and needed for little ones in similar situations. Megan Potter wrote, quote, 16-year-old me needed this Disney short before I quit ballet because I didn't want to be the fat girl in class anymore. I'm glad little ones will have this 10 out of 10 for Reflect. We'll have this too. Okay. However, others pushed back, feeling the open celebration of unhealthy life choices was not appropriate for children or really anyone. YouTuber Mr. H Reviews tweeted, quote, you wouldn't represent anorexia, Disney. Don't represent obesity either. It's wrong. Reflect Disney body positivity is a disease. Fatness is a cancer on society. As people anchor themselves to their sofas with sweatpants and snacks to watch this new offering about plus-size challenges from Disney Plus, a reminder that the streaming service's monthly costs are about to increase to $11 a month. Ironically, a monthly membership to a gym costs just $10. There you go. Uh, yeah. Encourage healthy choices. That's all I got to say. Encourage healthy choices. As best as you can. Take time out of your day to move around a bit. I have my daily exercise routine. What do I do? Well, nothing too complicated. I don't have a home gym. I've got 2 sets of hand weights, and I've got 1 barbell with about 40 pounds total on it. I got 20 pounds on either side. And what I do is I put on a song, right? I find some like playlist or something on YouTube, and I just put on a song. And it's like, okay, every part of this little routine has 1 song. So for 1 song, I will jog in place with a 10-pound hand weight in each hand, and just like jog in place, pumping my arms, moving my legs around for 1 song. It's like maybe 3 minutes, 4 minutes, get my upper body going. Then I do another song of sit-ups, or where you're laying on your back and you bring your knee up your chest, and you bring the opposite elbow as you have your hands behind your head. You bring your opposite elbow up to the knee, and you sort of like do those like side crunches. So I do that back and forth, or sit-ups, or some combination for 1 song. And then for my 3rd song, I do floor presses with the barbell, as many as I can. But I do them slow. Here's the thing: you don't do it like this. Bring the barbell up over my chest, and I hold it there with my elbows above the floor, right, just up to my chest. And I just hold it there and let it hover for about a 10 count, and then I lift 1, and I bring it back down. I count off 5, and then I lift 2, and I do that for 10. So I'm always letting it hover over my chest and sort of like straining my upper body a little bit. And then once I've done 10 slow presses, I do as many as I can in as quick succession as I can, until my arms can't do it anymore, or whatever, and then that's it. That might or might not take up the whole song, but that's the routine there. And more or less, that's my exercise routine every day, and I always force myself to do it. Right before I start, I say, "This is the price you pay. This is the price you pay." Right? And even though it's a strain and it's irritating at times, it only takes about 15 minutes a day, and I'm done. And it's more exercise than I get doing anything else in the course of being, cooped up in my apartment most of the time. So anything you can do, just make it a new routine, like brushing your teeth. You just have to do it once a day. Hopefully you're brushing your teeth more than once a day, but you know what I mean. Just find something that you can do without too much struggle, and do it every day. That's it. I'm not looking to become Mr. Universe. I don't imagine myself getting all, Fight Club cut or anything like that. That's not my goal. It's just overall getting some physical activity in my day every day, and being a little bit healthier than I was the day before, at least physical fitness wise. It also depends on what you're putting into your body, and I'm no saint on that point. I do enjoy the occasional cheeseburger. But if you can regulate that, and you can cut back on things and have an exercise routine every day, you'll be better off. Anyway, that's my lecture. I didn't need a Star Trek comic to lecture or advise on healthy habits. But there you go. Or a short film. Whatever. Anyway, what's on your guys' mind really quick? Bichi Cogito! Daily exercise. Look on YouTube for body weight calisthenics. Yeah, that too. You follow along with somebody's 8-minute abs routine or something. 15 minutes a day, at the very least. Just take 15 minutes out of your day, move your body, and wiggle a little bit in your living room, if nothing else. Now, if you have some weights, do some weights. If you have access to a gym, by all means, go to a gym. But just, even if you don't want to make the trip to the gym, something inside your own living room is better than nothing. Let's see. Abraham, the gym I went to closed down thanks to COVID. Yeah, and that's why at this stage of the game, given the tenuous nature of all that, I just say, whatever you can do at home or cobble together of your own volition, it's cheaper, it's more accessible, and it's something. Unless you're looking for some real serious body sculpting kind of stuff, just try to do something at home. Johnny Blaze, I started using my treadmill last time I walked to the store, and I almost died when I got back. Yeah, just walking, getting some walking stamina is good. Like I used to, before the lockdowns and everything, I walked to work every morning. Even when I had to commute by bus to some extent, I had to walk to work every morning. Because fortunately, I lived within walking distance of my job. And so I had to walk down a hill and then back up the hill. And it was maybe like a 20-minute routine, one direction. So I was spending an hour out of my day doing nothing but some kind of physical activity. And my stamina was great. But I noticed very quickly after the lockdown, I didn't have to walk to work anymore. When I did have to end up walking a long distance, I noticed very, very fast, like, oh my gosh, I'm losing. I've so lost that stamina. I found myself like a bit too tired. I never got like, heavy breathing, having to stop and or something like that, or feeling like I was exhausted from a simple walk. As soon as you get out of practice, it goes away quick. That's why you got to do it every day in some way, shape, or form. RVA Dar, ahoy, Scribe. Well, hello, RVA Dar. Long time no see as well, as far as I know. I apologize. If you and the MCR and Doniger and all you guys, if you've been there in the chat and just said hello and it scrolled by, but there's a lot of familiar names I see that in my mind I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in a long time. Maybe it's just the time of day that I'm able to catch you, or you're able to catch me. But hey, how's it going? Let's see. Anything else? Johnny Hellcat. My sons and I also hit the heavy bag when they're here. Yeah. What's his name on Twitter? Zuby. I think it was either Zuby. Evan Zuby. He said, if you don't have anything to do, exercise. Like, yeah. I mean, if you literally have nothing else to do a couple sit-ups, jog in place, lift a weight, whatever. Look up a quick 10-minute calisthenics routine on YouTube. What were you going to do with your time otherwise, right? Let's see. Let's take one more look at the wonderful world of CNN and see if anything is exciting going on elsewise. We already talked about the Pelosi thing. I don't want to talk about that. Looks like you're using an ad blocker. Yeah, well, sometimes I do, especially on CNN. I'm just that guy. I don't know. Oh, here we go. Oh, well, this ought to be interesting. Okay, let's do a timely subject matter story here. Let's see if I can. There we go. Okay, I think I'll make this the last article for today. I didn't imagine I'd go very long on this surprise stream, but let's end with something more timely. With the fate of affirmative action in the hands of the Supreme Court, these graduates are fighting to save it. Okay, so affirmative action. Yes, amongst several other things, affirmative action apparently is coming up in a Supreme Court case. Will it go by the wayside, as did Roe v. Wade? I don't know. Let's see. For nearly 60 years, institutions of higher education have been able to give limited preference to people of color and women with admissions. Yes, which kind of flies in the face of certain laws on the books. The practice, advocates say, has afforded marginalized people a fair chance to attend colleges and universities that may have otherwise overlooked them. It has also been a tool to prevent discrimination at institutions, many of which historically only admitted white students. Yes, so we're going to fight discrimination by having institutionalized discrimination. Always the oxymoron of the whole thing. Now the fate of affirmative action is in the hands of the conservative majority Supreme Court. Well, it was in the hands of the liberal majority Supreme Court for a long time, so... On Monday, justices will hear arguments for two cases at Harvard and University of North Carolina. The challenges are being spearheaded by conservative activist Edwin Blum, who filed the lawsuits in 2014. The Harvard challenge cites Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which prohibits schools receiving federal funds from discriminating based on race. Yes, it's very explicitly stated in the law. If you accept federal funding, if you're the recipient of federal funding, you are disallowed, and it is illegal, to discriminate in school activities, admissions, and so on the basis of race, sex, religion, so on and so forth. All right. The UNC lawsuit also claims Title VI grounds, as well as a violation of the 14th Amendment's guarantee of equal protection of the law, which covers state institutions. The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights is among the groups that will be defending the constitutionality of affirmative action before the Supreme Court. Well, good luck. Good luck in telling us how affirmative action inherently is not in violation of Title VI. Genevieve Bonadias Torres, I'm probably mispronouncing that, Associate Director for the Educational Opportunities Project for the committee, said affirmative action has led to college campuses becoming more diverse. Yes, becoming more visibly diverse. In return, Black and brown students are able to achieve profound economic mobility and uplift their communities, Torres said. Yes, because obviously Black and brown students, by just the nature of their skin color, are economically disadvantaged. And so are their associated communities or demographics, I guess. What we know from both experience and research is that when colleges stop considering race, they have seen steep declines in the number of Black and Hispanic students who gain access. I'm gonna read that again. When colleges stop considering race, they have seen steep declines in the number of Black and Hispanic students who gain access. But you're advocating for them to consider race. You're explicitly advocating for race to be a consideration first and foremost in admissions. Students of color are less likely to apply once they stop considering race because they see them as less inclusive and welcoming. So if I know that I'm not going to be given special treatment at a school because it's something that has nothing to do with my merit, first and foremost, that's not going to give me something of an advantage or a pass, I'm not going to apply to that school. Well, maybe you didn't really want to go to that school then. Or, okay. Torres said in 2015, students at both Harvard and UNC got involved in the cases by submitting letters and testifying about their experience on each campus and the importance of diversity. CNN spoke with 3 of the college graduates involved about why they believed affirmative action should be upheld. You didn't speak to anybody who believes the opposite? You're not going to do a balanced examination of the issue? No. Okay. A daughter of immigrants earned a prestigious full-ride scholarship. All right, well, not knowing what's going to be said next in the article, I want to highlight this word for a moment and see how that applies as we proceed. Let's see. In a moment here. Wait. Your boy Pat! It's your boy Pat, everybody. Hey, Pat. As somebody who's been hiring under affirmative action, it's not a good feeling unless you're a self-entitled acting group. Yeah, we just talked about this on the TEDx yesterday. Well, day before yesterday now. It's not Friday any longer. I keep telling myself that. Yeah, tokenism, diversity and inclusion programs, affirmative action. All it does is make suspect someone's presence in a particular place at a particular institution. If it is known that something that has nothing to do with skill or merit is a first-line filter for opportunity. I mean, and that's the problem. Even if someone is hired and they're completely qualified, take away everything else and you just look at on paper, etc., they have all the qualifications. If it is known that certain demographics are going to be given favored status for opportunities over others, that never leaves that person or anybody who falls within that category. It'll always be a question, both of the people around the individual and to the individual themselves. What do they call imposter syndrome? Yvonne Solomon, I hate the idea that my transfer admission could rely on the diversity quota a school wants to fill and not my academic achievement. I know. How do we solve for this problem except completely eliminating any consideration? Be the change you want to see. Anyway, let's take a look at this story here. A daughter of immigrants earned a prestigious full-ride scholarship. Okay, well, again, before I even get into the meat of the article, why does this matter then? This should be irrelevant, right? Because, anyway, let's see. Cecilia Polanco, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, grew up in a working-class family to parents who immigrated to the United States from El Salvador. Immigrated legally or illegally. Polanco said her father worked construction and her mother was a seamstress who also cleaned homes to provide for her and their family. And the other reason I asked that is because, the parents' status obviously will have an effect on the children's lives, depending on how they came to the country and under what circumstances. She said her parents allowed her to focus on school because they wanted a better life for her. Neither had the opportunity to finish school in El Salvador. Also, it can also be difficult to apply for college and other places, depending on the state, depending on the policies, if you don't have a U.S. Social Security number and a whole bunch of other things that you'd get if you were a legal citizen. That's what I was. Polanco said she worked twice as hard and took AP courses in high school. Okay. She knew that as a Latina child of immigrants, she didn't have the same resources as her white counterparts. None of that says anything about any of that. As a Latina child of immigrants. Okay, you could be a Latina child of immigrants and be a billionaire. You could be a Latina child of immigrants and be a pauper. You could be a Latina child of immigrants and be a saint or a serial killer. None of that has anything to do with your ability to get into college. Here's my question again. Were you born in this country or were you brought to this country? And was it legal or illegal? Because if it was illegal, yeah, that is going to be a severe detriment to your opportunities. In 2011, Polanco was selected as a Morehead Kane Scholar at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which offered her a full-ride scholarship. Okay, why? Why was she offered a full-ride scholarship? Polanco said she believes affirmative action helped level the playing field so that students of color like herself could receive such a prestigious scholarship. Okay, you believe it's about admissions. What were the requirements of the scholarship? Okay. The Morehead Kane Scholar. Okay, what is a Morehead Kane Scholar? What does that mean, first and foremost? Let me look that up. Morehead Kane, the nation's first merit scholarship program. Okay. We provide a 4-year, fully funded educational experience for exceptional student leaders at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Okay. Is there any element of this scholarship that takes into consideration race and or ethnicity? Or is it purely based on academic merit? Because if it's purely based on academic merit, then that had absolutely no effect or had nothing to do with her ethnicity or origins. I don't know. I'm asking, I'm not being facetious here. I don't know. I don't know what considerations were given. But she says she believes there's a lot of hedging going on here. I'm not quite sure. Keeverdam, thank you so much. You cut out for about 20 seconds. Also, Tail Future was in the chat. Oh, I cut out? Can you hear me now? That's not good. Let's see, and nothing changed on my end. Well, let me know if you can hear me now. And Tailed Feature was here. Oh no, I mistailed. There he was. If he's still here, fucking move. It happened right after you highlighted believed. Oh, weird. Okay, well, I'll try not to highlight anything else. I don't know if it has one to do with the other. Okay. Well, I apologize, guys. Live TV. I'll try not to mess around too much. Anyway, all I was saying is, does she believe it to be the case, or was it the case? We have an unjust society. Well, then how did you get a scholarship? How did you get a prestigious scholarship if we have an unjust society? And if you don't know that you got it because of your ethnicity, then why would you assume? And why would you want it to be based on your ethnicity? I mean, I'm just talking, abstractly to our subject here. Yours sounds like a total and absolute success story. You came from a completely disadvantaged background, right? Working class family, child of immigrants, no, trust fund, nothing backing you and everything else, but you get a full ride scholarship to a major college. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it was on the basis of your merit. It was on the basis of your effort, that you actually earned it. But you would rather us believe, or you want to believe, that you didn't earn it purely on merit. Someone took pity on you because of what you look like or where you're from. You'd prefer that. Okay. Polanco recounted being one of few students of color in some of her college classes and reading hurtful comments online from people who said she only got into UNC because the school had to meet a diversity quota. Well, again, what were the prerequisites of that scholarship? Was it because of her race? But she didn't let it deter her. She ultimately became a staunch advocate for affirmative action and was eager to contribute to the court case. Well, okay. So either she knows or she thinks that she got that scholarship in some way, shape, or form because of what she is, not what she knows or what she has done. But she's fine with that. Okay. Now Polanco works as a community organizer in Durham, North Carolina, where she focuses on philanthropy, racial equity, and youth organizing. Quote, I think affirmative action helps see the ways in which I think affirmative action helps see the ways in which I didn't have some of the same opportunities as other people as my white counterparts. Well, let me ask you this. If that scholarship was given to you in any way, shape, or form on the basis of your race, it was denied to anyone who did not share your race. And so that opportunity was not available to your white counterparts by design. An entire swath of people were denied that opportunity because of the color of their skin. You're fine with that notion? Wouldn't you rather know you got it because of your merit and your hard work and your academic excellence? Wouldn't you want everybody to know that? There are many valuable life experiences that I had that made me a valuable asset to UNC. Such as, why won't you give us a breakdown of what qualified you for that scholarship? I mean, in specifics. I mean, why wouldn't you want to tell us? Polanco plans to be in Washington, D.C. today as the Supreme Court hears arguments in the case. She believes the High Court will ultimately uphold the practice. Quote, I'm definitely feeling optimistic, Polanco said. I feel like I'd be surprised if it went the other way. Okay, if you say so. Next story. His family is seeing success for a second generation. Okay. Andrew Brennan said he has always faced reminders that he is black. Okay. From high school peers asking why he didn't fit the stereotypical black teen to being one of the few black students in his classes at UNC, Brennan said he never felt completely accepted. He recounted one class discussion about affirmative action at UNC when a white student questioned whether some black students were fully qualified to be at the university. Brennan also witnessed the protests on UNC's campus when the, quote, Silent Sam, unquote, Confederate statue was toppled. Well, that's the inherent problem with affirmative action, isn't it? Once you're told that people will be considered for opportunities based on their race, it's not an unreasonable question to ask. I mean, if the school is practicing racial discrimination, I mean, how would it be any different if there was a suspicion the school only accepted white students? You know, this person's only in this class because they're white. I mean, if that was the policy of the school, it wouldn't be something to ask about. Okay. With college campuses still battling racism or practicing it, or at least not the sentiment behind the act, but somebody who was trying to make it appear that there was racism taking place in order to generate a victimhood status. I hear that more often than I hear actual. What's going on? I'm muted again? Okay, I'm doing nothing. I'm sitting absolutely still, and I'm not touching anything. Oh boy. Okay, am I back? Am I back? Am I here? Yeah, I've clicked on nothing. I've touched nothing. The microphone is on. My software is still going. Okay, I'm audible. Oh, that is really disturbing. Is that StreamYard? Is it my internet connection? How about now? Okay, StreamYard's giving me a warning, a connection warning. Did I just cut out again? Okay. I don't know, guys. I think StreamYard might be hiccuping here and there. Oh boy, I hope this doesn't happen on Sunday. That'd be irritating. I wonder if I'll be. No, I probably won't be able to hear that if I had a guest on. Oh boy. Okay. It doesn't robot. It just cuts off. Okay. Okay. Well, I will get through this article, and then it'll wrap up. Hopefully, it doesn't continue too much or too bad. It only lasts like a few seconds. Something like that. Okay. Let's see. Quote, the evidence is pretty clear that when admissions officers are not able to take race into account, diversity on campus suffers, Brennan said. These efforts to hold folks accountable for the history and current-day racism on campus are led by students of color. And the reality is that our schools need to be as diverse as the workplaces and societies that we are supposed to be preparing to move into, unquote. At the cost of evaluating people on the basis of their race? Okay. I mean, if you say so. Brennan said he was eager to offer his perspective when the North Carolina Justice Center asked him to write a letter in support of affirmative action for the case. So you want people to see you as a diversity student. You're not at the school because of your academic ability. Okay. Brennan, the son of two attorneys, credited affirmative action for the success of his family. His parents, he said, both grew up poor but were able to attend law school and pursue legal careers. Because of affirmative action? Okay. Brennan said his parents instilled the importance of education in him and taught him how affirmative action had helped many black families prosper. Brennan graduated from UNC in 2019 with a degree in political science. He now works for a social change venture. Quote, there are people out there who want to exploit the fact that affirmative action somehow means your white kid is going to suffer, Brennan said. Well, how about your Asian kid? Are we going to discuss the whole case brought up? I think it was Harvard, wasn't it? Or was it Yale? One of the big Ivy League schools were being sued by an Asian American association. I mean, discrimination is discrimination. But okay, I think that hugely mischaracterizes what affirmative action is doing. Okay, affirmative action, he says, gives everyone, regardless of race, a fair shot at quality education and success. Regardless of race? What are you talking? You just told us. Brennan said his parents instilled the importance of education in him and taught him how affirmative action had helped many black families prosper. It requires... Race is the crux of the consideration. Race is not a regardless factor. It is the primary factor. What are you talking about? Brennan said he worries that the conservative majority Supreme Court won't agree. Quote, while I'm confident that our attorneys are making strong, constitutionally backed, precedent-based arguments in support of affirmative action, I'm nervous that this court doesn't care, Brennan said. Well, here's the thing. Title VI makes it pretty clear. And precedent is not law. This is the thing that people don't seem to understand, especially when they came to Roe v. Wade. Precedent does not equate to written law. or past law. It is a guide. It is a suggestion. It's what someone did previously in a similar case. It is not carved in stone. But your parents are attorneys, so obviously you know that. Lastly, a young Vietnamese immigrant took a chance and got into Harvard. Okay. Tang Diep experienced confusion over his identity throughout his childhood. Diep said he immigrated with his family from Vietnam to the U.S. at the age of 8 and didn't speak much English. As he gradually learned the language, he still had a thick accent, and classmates teased him throughout the grade school. Throughout the grade school? How about throughout grade school? Some would call him Chinese when really he was Vietnamese. As Diep settled into American life, he watched his father travel back and forth to Vietnam for work so he could still provide for the family. Diep's mom didn't work and stayed home. Well, if Dad was traveling back and forth from Vietnam, then I'm assuming he had, and his family had, legal residence, because it wouldn't be that easy to go back and forth if you didn't. Okay. When it came time to apply for colleges, Harvard was not on Diep's radar. Quote, "It seemed out of reach and this impossible thing," Diep said. But 3 days before the admissions application was due, his mother encouraged him to take a chance and apply. Diep said in his admissions essay, he wrote about his struggles with racial identity and fitting in during grade school. Diep ultimately was accepted and studied neuroscience at Harvard. Okay, well, was he selected because of his race or not? When Diep was asked to write a letter in support of affirmative action while attending Harvard, Diep jumped at the opportunity. He believed Asian Americans, particularly Southeast Asian Americans, had been left out of the conversation and wanted the world to know that they too support affirmative action. Asian Americans, he said, are not a monolith. Let me back up. He believed Asian Americans, particularly Southeast Asian Americans, had been left out of the conversation and wanted the world to know that they too support affirmative action. Asian Americans, he said, are not a monolith. Then why would you possibly say that you're speaking for an entire demographic? What are... Contrary to the model minority stereotype, you know, the only time I've ever heard of the model minority stereotype is from people telling me that there's a model minority stereotype. I'd never heard of that phrase until I'm told that it exists. And it still doesn't make any sense to me. Some Asian Americans come from working class families like he did, Diep said. Quote, "I think we live in a society where race plays a critical role in our experience and what access to resources we have," Diep said. "One way we can make the education system better is to acknowledge and take into account these barriers." Were you the beneficiary of an affirmative action decision or not? I mean, in nearly every case here so far, we've been given absolutely no evidence that they actually benefited from affirmative action. They just believe they did. And they contradict themselves. This guy in particular. Well, Asian Americans aren't a monolith, but I wanted the world to know that they too support affirmative action. What, all of them? All of them support it? We live in a society. Diep now works for a nonprofit that works to combat domestic violence. Good for him. Diep said he will be in Washington, D.C. rallying around affirmative action with other college graduates and students. He said he stands in solidarity with all communities of color that are fighting to keep affirmative action. Quote, "I feel like there is some sense of optimism," Diep said. "I hope that this will become an educational opportunity to spread awareness about the impact." Okay, so in none of these stories, do you know for a fact, or are you stating with any certainty that you actually were the recipient of an affirmative action decision on the basis of your race, ethnicity, etc.? But you're sure it helped, but you're fine with that, even if it ends up making you a token selection, and even if you don't represent an entire demographic, but you sure say you will, or you do, like, what? But that's all meaningless. That's all irrelevant. What does the Constitution say? If you accept or if you are the recipient of federal funds, you are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of race or gender or religion or ethnicity or national origin. You're not allowed. Affirmative action is a direct contradiction of the constitutional law. Precedent doesn't matter up against the letter of the law. So I'm curious to find out how the Supreme Court rules on this, all things considered, because they will effectively set, they may have to contradict. I mean, if they agree with affirmative action, or they pass on the case, or they don't give any kind of decision, or they make a very narrow decision for the particular case involved, I guess we'll see. It might be new precedent, or they might just throw the whole thing out. If there's a better way to do it, then write that law and put it through the normal channels. Don't make some kind of like weird policy that tries to skirt what's in the law, right? That's all I got to say about it. The same thing with Roe v. Wade, same thing with DACA. I don't, just as an example of policy versus law, I don't have a problem with DACA fundamentally. If you are brought to this country against your will and without your knowledge because you're a little kid, you don't know any different, you shouldn't necessarily feel the same weight of consequence on you that your parents, full-grown adults, should for knowingly breaking the law, right? So I think there's every reason why special consideration should be given to someone who, through no fault of their own, came to the country illegally. I think that makes perfect sense. And so that should be passed as law, but it was implemented as an executive fiat. Why isn't it being passed as law? Why isn't that argument being made? I don't know. The DREAM Act is there. It's effectively DACA with the same conditions. But that's still going on. Why not make it a law? Roe v. Wade, it was a precedent, not a law. And same thing with affirmative action. It makes no sense up against the Constitution. It's actually antithetical to the whole idea behind the Civil Rights Act. But hey, let's keep doing it, I guess, even though our 3 examples that CNN gave us don't have any grounds to stand on to either say that they benefited from it directly. But if they did, it's fine, and we don't consider race except that they do. And anyway, I'm going to wrap things up, guys, because between the audio cutouts, which, again, I'm hoping is just a momentary lapse in quality. I'll have to reboot my router after this and make sure some other things are going on. Good morning, ex-Bubba Hotep. But yes, thank you all for joining me for this unexpected morning stream. As far as I know, the water dripping from my ceiling from the apartment above has indeed stopped for the time being, and in a few hours, hopefully, I will more firmly address that with my neighbor and or the apartment manager. But as a programming note, yes, you will find me here tomorrow, Sunday, October 30th at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for a special Halloween stream where I will be joined by the Script Doctor and Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge as we hash out a hypothetical sequel in the Nightmare and Elm Street, good God, my brain, Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I have a goofy nugget of an idea for how to continue the story from the last official Nightmare on Elm Street film. And it might work, might not. I guess we'll find out together tomorrow, Sunday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Scribe Light channel. And hello, Comrade Kitty, and to everybody, thank you for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved, save for those sex bots, that you have very little to do. Everybody who donated, thank you so much for your generosity on this unexpected stream. I really do appreciate it. I hope you all have a good Saturday, a much more pleasant one than I've had so far, insofar as little water emergency there. Hope you have a good weekend overall. Hope you have a happy, fun, and safe Halloween oncoming. I hope you are all, in general terms, safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.